Maya Chen sat on her small wooden stool at the busy street corner. Her fingers moved across the black and white keys of her keyboard. The keyboard was old and scratched, but it still made beautiful sounds. She had been sitting here for 3 hours already. Her back hurt and her fingers felt tired, but she kept playing. The corner of 5th and Market Street was always full of people. They walked past her quickly, looking at their phones or talking to friends. Most people did not stop to listen. Some dropped coins into her open guitar case without even looking at her face. A few smiled. Even fewer stayed to listen to a whole song. Maya was 26 years old. She had moved to the city 4 years ago with big dreams. She wanted to be a real musician, playing in concert halls and recording albums. But the city was expensive. Rent took most of her money. Food took the rest. She worked part-time at a coffee shop in the mornings and played music on the street in the afternoons. This was her life now. She did not come from a rich family. Her mother had worked 2 jobs to pay for Maya's piano lessons when she was young. Her father had left when she was only 5 years old. She barely remembered him. Her mother believed Maya had special talent. She saved every extra dollar to send Maya to the Riverside Conservatory, a small music school in their hometown. Maya studied hard at the conservatory. She learned classical music from old European composers. She practiced for hours every day until her fingers ached. Her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, said she played with real feeling, but feeling did not pay the bills. When Maya finished school, she learned that the music world was very difficult. There were thousands of musicians and very few jobs. Her mother died 2 years ago from cancer. Maya still felt the pain of that loss every single day. Sometimes when she played, she imagined her mother was listening. It made her feel less alone in this big, crowded city where nobody really knew her. Today was a cool autumn afternoon. The leaves on the few street trees had turned yellow and orange. The sky was gray with clouds. Maya wore her old brown jacket and a scarf her mother had knitted years ago. The scarf had holes in it now, but Maya could not throw it away. She decided to play Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. This was her mother's favorite piece. When Maya was young, her mother would sit quietly in their small living room and listen to her practice this piece. Her mother would close her eyes and smile. She would say the music made her think of peaceful things like moonlight on water or snow falling softly at night. Maya began to play. The melody was soft and gentle at first. Her fingers found each note carefully. She was not thinking about the people walking by anymore. She was not thinking about the rent she needed to pay or the hole in her shoe. She was just thinking about the music and about her mother. The melody grew more complex. There were fast parts where her fingers had to move quickly across the keys. There were slow parts that felt like a gentle conversation. The piece had sadness in it, but also beauty. That was what Maya loved about Chopin. His music could be sad and beautiful at the same time. As she played, she did not notice that an old man had stopped walking. He stood about 10 feet away from her on the sidewalk. He was wearing an expensive-looking gray wool coat. His white hair was neat and combed. He had a leather briefcase in his hand. He looked like he might be a lawyer or a businessman. His face was wrinkled with age, probably in his 70s. The old man stood very still. He was listening to every note. As Maya continued playing, something strange happened. Tears began to roll down the old man's cheeks. He did not wipe them away. He just stood there listening and crying quietly. Maya was focused on her music. She reached the most beautiful part of the piece where the melody seemed to float in the air like a bird. Her eyes were half closed. She was lost in the memory of her mother. Other people walked past. They glanced at the old man crying on the sidewalk. Some looked concerned. Some looked uncomfortable and walked faster. But the old man did not move. He waited until Maya played the very last note of the piece. When the music ended, there was a moment of silence. The city noise came back, cars honking, people talking, a bus stopping nearby. Maya opened her eyes fully. She felt tired but peaceful, the way she always felt after playing her mother's favorite piece. She looked up and saw the old man. He was wiping his eyes with a white handkerchief. Their eyes met for just a second. Maya thought she should say something, but she did not know what. The old man's expression was hard to read. He looked sad, but also somehow happy. He looked at her as if he recognized her, even though she was sure they had never met. The old man reached into his coat pocket. Maya expected him to pull out some money for her tip jar. Instead, he pulled out a small white business card. He walked closer to her and bent down carefully like his back hurt. He placed the card gently in her guitar case right next to the few dollar bills and coins that were already there. He did not say a single word. He just looked at her one more time with his watery blue eyes. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of people on the busy sidewalk. Maya watched him go. She felt confused. Who was that man? Why had he been crying? Why did he look at her that way? She reached into her guitar case and picked up the business card. It was made of thick, expensive paper, the kind that rich people used. The card had elegant black printing on it that said, Theodore Blackwood, estate attorney. Below that was an address in the downtown business district and a phone number. Maya turned the card over. On the back, written in neat handwriting, were 3 words. Please call me. She stared at the card for a long time. An estate attorney? That was a lawyer who dealt with wills and inheritances, right? Why would an estate attorney give her his card? She did not know anyone who had died recently, except her mother, and her mother had nothing to leave behind except debts and a box of old photographs. Maya's mind filled with questions. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the old man had confused her with someone else. Or maybe it was some kind of scam. She had heard stories about con artists in the city who tricked people, but something about the man's tears felt real. The way he had listened to her music felt genuine. She put the card in her jacket pocket and tried to forget about it. She played for another hour. The afternoon was getting colder. Fewer people were on the street now. She counted her money. $32.50. Not great, but enough for dinner and maybe a little extra for the electric bill. Maya packed up her keyboard and folded her stool. She carried everything to the subway station. Her arms ached from holding the heavy keyboard. The subway was crowded with people going home from work. Maya stood near the door, holding onto a pole, her keyboard case between her feet. She lived in a tiny studio apartment in a neighborhood far from downtown. The apartment was on the 4th floor of an old building with no elevator. She had to carry her keyboard up all the stairs. By the time she reached her door, she was breathing hard. Inside, the apartment was cold. The heating did not work well. Maya turned on a small electric heater and made herself a simple dinner of rice and vegetables. As she ate, she thought about the old man again. The business card was still in her pocket. That night, she could not sleep well. She kept thinking about the man's tears and the way he had looked at her. Finally, at around midnight, she got out of bed and turned on the small lamp on her desk. She took out the business card and looked at it again. Theodore Blackwood, estate attorney. She typed his name into her phone's internet browser. Several results came up. She found his law firm's website. It was a fancy website for a fancy law firm, the kind that represented rich people. Theodore Blackwood was listed as a senior partner. He had worked there for 45 years. Maya felt even more confused. Why would a senior partner at a fancy law firm care about a street musician? She looked at more search results. She found some news articles mentioning Theodore Blackwood. He had handled estates for wealthy families. One article mentioned him settling a complicated inheritance case worth millions of dollars. This made no sense. Maya put her phone down and tried to sleep again, but the mystery kept her awake until almost 3 in the morning. The next day at the coffee shop, Maya was so tired she almost spilled hot coffee on a customer. Her boss, Mr. Ramirez, noticed she was distracted. "You okay, Maya?" he asked during her break. "I'm fine," she said. "Just tired." "You work too hard," Mr. Ramirez said kindly. He was a good boss. He knew about her music and always let her leave early if she had an important opportunity. "You should rest more." Maya nodded, but she knew she could not rest more. She needed every dollar from both her jobs just to survive in this expensive city. That afternoon, she went back to her usual corner. She set up her stool and keyboard. Before she started playing, she took out the business card again. She had made a decision. She would call this Theodore Blackwood after she finished playing for the day. She needed to know what this was about. Even if it turned out to be nothing, at least the mystery would be solved. She played for 3 hours. She played Beethoven and Mozart and more Chopin. A few people stopped to listen. A tourist couple from Japan took her photo and left her $10. A young mother with a baby in a stroller stood nearby for a while, swaying gently while her baby fell asleep to the music. Those were the moments Maya loved. When people really listened. When the music meant something to them, but the old man did not come back. When she finished, Maya packed up quickly. She was nervous. She walked to a quiet spot near a park and sat on a bench. She took out her phone and the business card. Her finger hovered over the phone number. What would she say? "Hello, I'm the street musician you gave your card to?" That sounded silly. "You were crying while I played music." That sounded worse. Finally, she just dialed the number before she could change her mind. The phone rang 3 times. Then a professional-sounding woman answered. "Blackwood and Associates, how may I direct your call?" Maya's throat felt dry. Hello. I'm calling for Theodore Blackwood. My name is Maya Chen. He gave me his card." "One moment, please," the woman said. There was silence. Then classical music played while Maya waited. She almost hung up. This felt crazy. Then a man's voice came on the line. It was gentle and deep with a slight rasp of age. "Miss Chen? This is Theodore Blackwood. Thank you so much for calling. I was hoping you would." Maya did not know what to say. You gave me your card yesterday." "When I was playing music, yes," he said. "You were playing Chopin. Nocturne in E-flat major. It was beautiful. You played it with remarkable feeling." "Thank you," Maya said. "But I don't understand why." Theodore Blackwood interrupted gently. "Miss Chen, I know this must seem very strange. I promise I will explain everything. But this is not a conversation we should have over the phone. Would you be willing to meet me at my office? I understand you're busy, but this is quite important. I can work around your schedule." Maya's heart was beating fast. "Is something wrong? Am I in some kind of trouble?" No, Theodore said quickly. "Nothing like that. In fact, Miss Chen, if you give me the chance to explain, I believe you will find this meeting very much worth your time. I represent someone who was very moved by your music." Maya thought for a moment. This could still be some weird scam, but something in the man's voice sounded honest. And he was a real attorney at a real firm. She had checked that. "Okay," she said finally. "When? Would tomorrow morning work? Say 10 o'clock? I know that's early, but I think you'll want to hear this as soon as possible." Maya thought about her coffee shop shift. She could ask Mr. Ramirez if she could come in late. 10 o'clock should work. "What's the address?" Theodore gave her the address. It was in the downtown business district in one of the tall office buildings. Maya wrote it down on the back of a receipt she found in her pocket. "Excellent," Theodore said. "I'll see you then, Miss Chen, and thank you for your music. It meant more than you know." The call ended. Maya sat on the park bench staring at her phone. What had she just agreed to? Tomorrow morning she would go to a fancy law office to meet an old man who cried during her street performance. It all seemed unreal. She went home that evening and tried on her best clothes. She only had one good outfit. A simple black dress she wore to the few auditions she still managed to get. It was a little worn, but it was clean and respectable. She would wear that with her only pair of dress shoes. That night she barely slept again. Her mind created 100 different scenarios. Maybe someone had left her a small inheritance. But who? She did not know any rich people. Maybe the old man wanted to hire her to play at a private party. That would be nice. Maybe he wanted to give her music lessons to someone in his family. Or maybe it was all a mistake and she would go to that office and feel like a fool. The next morning, Maya woke up early. She took a long shower trying to calm her nerves. She put on her black dress and dress shoes. She looked at herself in the small mirror near her door. She looked nervous and tired but presentable. She took the subway downtown. The buildings here were tall and made of glass and steel. Everyone walked fast and wore expensive suits. Maya felt out of place. She found the address Theodore had given her. It was a building with a doorman and a marble lobby. She walked inside, feeling small. The elevator took her to the 20th floor. When the doors opened, she saw a sign that said Blackwood and Associates in gold letters. The office was beautiful, with dark wood furniture and paintings on the walls. A receptionist sat behind a large desk. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked with a professional smile. "I'm Maya Chen," Maya said quietly. "I have an appointment with Theodore Blackwood." The receptionist checked her computer. "Yes, Miss Chen. Mr. Blackwood is expecting you. Please have a seat. He'll be with you in just a moment." Maya sat in a leather chair that was probably more expensive than everything she owned. She waited, her hands folded in her lap, wondering what would happen next and how this strange meeting would change everything. Maya sat in the waiting area for only 5 minutes, but it felt like an hour. She looked around at the expensive office. Everything was so clean and perfect. The carpet was soft under her feet. The magazines on the coffee table were current, not old and torn like in most waiting rooms. She felt like she did not belong here. A door opened and Theodore Blackwood stepped out. He looked exactly as she remembered. White hair, neat appearance, kind eyes. He was wearing a dark blue suit with a tie. He smiled when he saw her. "Miss Chen," he said warmly, "thank you for coming. Please follow me to my office." Maya stood up and followed him down a hallway. They passed several offices where other lawyers were working at their desks. Theodore's office was at the end of the hall. It was large, with windows that looked out over the city. Maya could see the park and the river in the distance. "Please sit down," Theodore said, gesturing to a comfortable chair in front of his desk. He walked around and sat in his own chair. "Can I offer you some coffee or tea?" "No, thank you," Maya said. Her voice sounded small. She cleared her throat. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm very confused about why I'm here." Theodore nodded. "Of course you are. I would be confused too. Let me explain." He opened a folder on his desk. "Miss Chen, 3 days ago I watched you play piano on the street corner. You were playing Chopin's Nocturne. Do you remember seeing me?" "Yes," Maya said. "You were crying." Theodore smiled sadly. "Yes, I was. That piece of music brought back very powerful memories for me. But I'm not the reason you're here. I'm here on behalf of someone else. Someone who also heard you play." Maya leaned forward slightly. "Who?" "Her name was Helena Volkov," Theodore said. She was a concert pianist. Quite famous in her time, though she retired from public performance over 30 years ago. She passed away last week at the age of 93. Maya felt confused. "I don't understand. I never met anyone named Helena Volkov." "Not formally, no," Theodore agreed. "But Helena heard you play many times. She lived about 3 blocks from the corner where you perform. For the past 6 months, she took a walk every week, specifically to pass by your corner. She would stand in the crowd and listen to you play. She never introduced herself. She just listened." Maya tried to remember seeing an old woman listening to her music. But so many people passed by every day, she could not remember any specific person. "Helena was very private," Theodore continued. "After she retired, she lived alone. She never married, never had children. She dedicated her entire life to music. She performed in the greatest concert halls in the world: Vienna, Moscow, London, New York. She was brilliant." "That's very interesting," Maya said slowly, "but I still don't understand why I'm here." Theodore took a deep breath. "Miss Chen, Helena Volkov left a will. In that will, she left her entire estate to you." Maya stared at him. The words did not make sense. "What?" "She left everything to you," Theodore repeated. "Her house, her savings, her investments, and most importantly, her piano. Her very valuable piano." Maya felt like the room was spinning. This had to be a joke, or a mistake. But why? She didn't even know me. I never spoke to her. This doesn't make any sense." Theodore opened the folder and took out several pieces of paper. Helena left a letter explaining her decision. She also kept a journal. In her final entries, she wrote about you. Would you like me to read what she wrote?" Maya nodded, unable to speak. Theodore picked up one of the papers. He adjusted his reading glasses. This is from her journal, dated about 2 months ago. She wrote, "Today I heard my mother's spirit in a stranger's hands. The young woman at the corner plays not for fame or applause, but for the pure love of sharing beauty. She plays with the kind of truth that cannot be taught in any conservatory. When she played Chopin today, I wept. I heard my own mother in those notes. My mother, who died when I was only 16, who never got to see me become famous. This young woman plays the way my mother always wanted me to play. From the heart, not from ambition." Maya felt tears in her own eyes now. She thought about her own mother, who had loved her music so much. Theodore continued reading. Helena wrote, "I have spent my whole life chasing perfection. I played for critics and kings. I won awards and earned money. But somewhere along the way, I forgot why I started playing music in the first place. This young street musician remembers. She knows what I forgot. She deserves my legacy more than any museum or institution. She will understand what to do with it." Theodore set down the paper and looked at Maya with kind eyes. "Helena had no living relatives, Miss Chen. No children, no siblings, no close friends. She was very wealthy from her career, but money meant little to her. She wanted her legacy to go to someone who truly understood music. She chose you." Maya wiped her eyes. I don't know what to say. This is overwhelming. I understand, Theodore said gently. Would you like to know what the estate includes? Maya nodded, still feeling like she was in a dream. Theodore pulled out more papers. Helena owned a brownstone house in the northwest part of the city. It's fully paid for. No mortgage. The house is worth approximately $1.8 million. Maya gasped. She had never even imagined that much money. She also had savings and investments, Theodore continued. Approximately $600,000 in various accounts. And then there's the piano. The piano, Maya repeated softly. Not just any piano, Theodore said. A 1923 Steinway Model D grand piano. It's one of only 50 ever made in that particular rosewood finish. Helena bought it in 1962 when she was at the peak of her career. She paid a fortune for it even then. Today it's worth at least $300,000, possibly more to the right collector. Maya felt dizzy. This could not be real. Things like this did not happen to people like her. There are some conditions, Theodore said. Not legal conditions, but requests that Helena made. She asked that you live in the house for at least 1 year before deciding whether to sell it. She wanted you to experience it as your home. She also asked that you play the piano. She said it should not sit silent. It needs a musician who will love it. I'll play it, Maya whispered. Of course I'll play it, Theodore smiled. There's one more thing. Helena left you a key. She said you should explore the house yourself, without me or anyone else present first. She wanted you to discover it on your own. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out an old brass key on a ribbon. This is the key to the front door. He slid a piece of paper across the desk with an address written on it. This is where the house is located. It's in a very nice neighborhood. Safe, quiet, good restaurants and shops nearby. Maya took the key with shaking hands. The brass was warm and heavy. When can I go there? Whenever you'd like, Theodore said. The house is yours now. I've had it cleaned and the utilities turned on. It's ready for you. I have to work today, Maya said, thinking out loud. I have my shift at the coffee shop and then I usually play music in the afternoon. Miss Chen, Theodore said gently. You don't need to work at the coffee shop anymore. You don't need to play on the street corner anymore. You're a wealthy woman now. You own a house worth nearly $2 million and you have $600,000 in the bank. The reality of this started to sink in. No more struggling to pay rent. No more cold apartment. No more sore fingers from playing for hours hoping for enough tip money to buy dinner. It felt impossible. I think I need to see the house, Maya said. I need to see it to believe this is real. Would you like me to come with you? Theodore asked. Maya remembered what he had said. Helena wanted her to see the house alone first. No, thank you. I think I need to do this by myself. Theodore nodded with understanding. Of course. But before you go, there are some papers you need to sign. Legal documents transferring the estate to you. It will take about 30 minutes. Is that all right? Yes, Maya said. For the next half hour, Theodore explained various documents to her. He was patient and kind, making sure she understood everything. He showed her bank statements and investment accounts. He explained property taxes and utilities. It was a lot of information, but Theodore made it as simple as possible. Maya signed paper after paper. Each signature made it more real. Finally, they were done. Theodore stood up and offered his hand. Maya shook it. Congratulations, Miss Chen, he said. Helena chose well. I heard you play that day too. I understood why she was so moved. You have a gift. Thank you, Maya said, for everything. For handling all of this. For being kind. It's my honor, Theodore said. If you need anything at all, please call me. I'm here to help. Maya left the office building in a daze. She walked out onto the busy street and just stood there for a moment. People rushed past her, going about their normal day. But Maya's whole life had just changed. She looked at the address Theodore had given her. The house was on the other side of the city. She could take the subway there. She looked at her phone. It was almost 11 in the morning. She should call Mr. Ramirez at the coffee shop and tell him she would not be coming to work today. Actually, she would not be coming back at all. That thought was scary and exciting at the same time. She found a quiet spot and called the coffee shop. Mr. Ramirez answered. Maya, where are you? Your shift started an hour ago. Mr. Ramirez, I'm so sorry, Maya said. Something unexpected happened. Something big. I can't explain it all now, but I have to quit. I'm sorry for the short notice. There was silence on the other end. Then Mr. Ramirez said, "Are you okay? You're not in trouble, are you?" No, Maya said quickly. "Nothing bad. Actually, something good. Very good. I just can't work there anymore." "Well," Mr. Ramirez said, and she could hear the smile in his voice, "I always knew you were meant for bigger things than making coffee. Good luck, Maya. You're a good kid." "Thank you," Maya said, feeling emotional. "For everything. You were always kind to me." After she hung up, Maya felt a strange sense of freedom. No more early morning shifts. No more smelling like coffee all day. No more standing on her feet for hours. She took the subway to the address Theodore had given her. The neighborhood was beautiful. Tree-lined streets with old brownstone houses. Clean sidewalks. People walking dogs. It was so different from her neighborhood with its broken streetlights and graffiti-covered walls. She found the address. Number 42. The house was 3 stories tall, made of red-brown stone with white trim. It had a small front garden with flowers that were still blooming even in autumn. Steps led up to a dark green front door with a brass knocker. Maya stood on the sidewalk looking up at it. This was hers. This beautiful house was actually hers. She walked up the steps slowly, the brass key in her hand. Her fingers were shaking as she put the key in the lock. It turned smoothly. The door opened. Maya stepped inside and caught her breath. The entrance hall was beautiful. Wood floors that gleamed. A staircase with a carved banister leading upstairs. Paintings on the walls, real oil paintings, not posters. A chandelier hung from the ceiling, its crystals catching the light from the windows. Everything was quiet. The house smelled faintly of lemon polish and old books. Maya walked forward slowly as if she might break something. To her left was a living room with comfortable-looking furniture and more bookshelves than she had ever seen. To her right was a dining room with a long wooden table and chairs. She walked down the hallway toward the back of the house. She passed a kitchen that was bigger than her entire studio apartment. It had marble countertops and a window that looked out onto a small backyard. Then she found it. At the back of the house, there was a large room with high ceilings and tall windows, and in the center of that room, catching the afternoon light, was the piano. Maya stopped in the doorway. She had never seen a piano so beautiful. It was huge, much bigger than any piano she had ever played. The rosewood finish glowed like honey. The lid was closed, but she could see the Steinway name spelled out in gold letters. She walked toward it slowly, almost afraid to touch it. When she reached it, she ran her fingers gently along the smooth wood. It was cool under her hand, perfect, flawless. There was a bench in front of the piano. Maya sat down carefully. She lifted the lid that covered the keys. The keys were perfect, white and black, gleaming and clean. She placed her fingers on the keys. She pressed down gently. The sound that came out was like nothing she had ever heard, rich and full and perfect. Each note was clear as a bell. Maya started to play. She played the same Chopin nocturne she had been playing on the street corner. But on this piano, in this room, it sounded completely different. It sounded the way it was meant to sound, beautiful and powerful and true. As she played, tears rolled down her cheeks. She thought about her mother, who had worked so hard to give her piano lessons. She thought about all the years of practice and struggle. She thought about playing on street corners for spare change, her fingers cold and stiff. And now she was here, in this beautiful house, playing this magnificent piano. It felt like a dream. When she finished the piece, she sat quietly for a moment. Then she noticed something. There was a piano bench next to her, the kind that opens up for storage. She lifted the lid. Inside were leather-bound books, journals, from the look of them. She carefully took out the top one and opened it. The handwriting inside was elegant and old-fashioned. At the top of the first page it said, Helena Volkov Journal, January 1958. Maya realized these were Helena's personal journals, her private thoughts and memories. She turned the pages carefully, reading a few lines here and there. Helena wrote about performances and travels. She wrote about music and composers. She wrote about loneliness and dedication. Maya counted the journals. There were at least 20 of them, maybe more. They covered decades of Helena's life. She would read them all, she decided. She would learn about this woman who had given her everything. This woman who had heard something special in Maya's street corner music. This woman who had changed her life forever. Maya closed the journal and put it back carefully. She looked around the music room again. There was so much to explore in this house, so much to learn and discover. But for now, she just wanted to sit here at this beautiful piano. She placed her fingers on the keys again and began to play. She played every piece she knew. She played until the afternoon light started to fade and the room grew dim. She played like she had never played before, with joy and freedom and gratitude. This was her home now. This was her piano now. And somehow this was just the beginning of her story. Maya spent the first 3 days in the house just walking from room to room, trying to believe it was real. Every time she touched something, she expected someone to tell her she did not belong here. But no one came. The house was silent except for the sounds she made. On the 4th day, she finally went back to her old apartment to get her things. It looked even smaller and sadder than she remembered. The walls were thin and stained. The window barely opened. The bathroom was tiny and the shower hardly worked. She had lived here for 2 years and thought it was normal. Now she could barely believe she had survived in such a place. She packed her clothes into 2 suitcases. Everything she owned fit in those 2 bags. Her keyboard, her music book, some photographs of her mother, a few kitchen items. That was all. Her whole life in 2 suitcases. Her neighbor, Mrs. Martinez, saw her leaving. "You moving out, honey?" the old woman asked. "Yes," Maya said. "I got a new place." "Good for you," Mrs. Martinez said. "You always seem too nice for this building. I hope your new place is better." "It is," Maya said, smiling. "Much better." She took a taxi to the brownstone house. It cost $20, which used to seem like a lot of money. Now Maya had $600,000 in the bank. $20 for a taxi did not matter anymore. That thought still felt strange. When she arrived at the house, she carried her suitcases inside. She stood in the entrance hall and realized she had not even looked at the bedrooms yet. She had spent all her time in the music room with the piano. She climbed the beautiful staircase to the 2nd floor. There were 3 bedrooms. The first one was clearly Helena's. It had a large bed with a white quilt. The furniture was antique and elegant. There were more photographs on the dresser. Maya walked over to look at the photographs. Most showed a young Helena at different ages. In one photo, she was maybe 20 years old, sitting at a piano and smiling at the camera. Her dark hair was pulled back and she wore a formal dress. She looked happy and confident. Another photo showed Helena much older, maybe in her 60s. She was on a stage taking a bow. The audience in the background was standing and clapping. This must have been from one of her concerts. There was one photo that made Maya stop. It showed a woman with a young girl. The woman was holding the girl's hand. They were standing in front of a piano. The woman looked like an older version of Helena, so this must be Helena's mother, and the girl must be Helena when she was very young, maybe 8 or 9 years old. Maya picked up the photo and looked at it closely. Helena's mother had a kind face. She was looking at young Helena with so much love. Maya thought about her own mother looking at her the same way. Mothers who believed in their daughters. Mothers who sacrificed for their daughters' dreams. She put the photo back carefully and explored the other rooms. The 2nd bedroom was set up as a library. The walls were covered with bookshelves from floor to ceiling. Books about music, books about composers, books about piano technique. There were also novels and poetry books. Helena had been a reader. The 3rd bedroom was smaller and simpler. Maya decided this would be her bedroom. It had a comfortable bed and a window that looked out onto the street. She unpacked her 2 suitcases, hanging her few clothes in the large closet. Her belongings looked lost in all that space. That evening, Maya went back down to the music room. She had been thinking about Helena's journals all day. She wanted to understand this woman who had given her everything. She opened the piano bench again and took out the journals. She arranged them in order by date. The earliest was from 1958, when Helena was 26, the same age Maya was now. The latest was from just a few weeks before Helena died. Maya started with the earliest journal. She sat in a comfortable chair near the window and began to read. Helena's writing was beautiful. She wrote about her early career, her first major concerts, her nervousness and excitement. She wrote about learning difficult pieces and the satisfaction of mastering them. She wrote about traveling to Europe for the first time and feeling amazed by the concert halls there. But Maya also noticed something sad in the writing. Helena wrote about being lonely. She wrote about other musicians who were jealous of her success. She wrote about critics who praised her technique but said she lacked emotion in her playing. One entry caught Maya's attention. Helena had written, "Today a reviewer said my playing was technically perfect but emotionally cold." He said I play like a machine, not like a human. His words hurt me deeply. I practice 8 hours every day. I dedicate my entire life to music. How can he say I have no emotion? But then I wonder, is he right? Have I become so focused on perfection that I forgot about feeling? I remember playing as a child, playing for my mother. I did not think about technique then. I just played what I felt. When did I lose that? Maya felt a chill. This was written decades ago, but it explained so much. Helena had recognized something missing in her own playing. She had spent her whole life searching for the emotion she had lost. Maya read more. She spent hours reading entry after entry. She learned that Helena's mother had died when Helena was only 16. After that, Helena had devoted herself completely to music. She said it was the only way to cope with the grief. But maybe it had also been a way to avoid the grief. Helena never married. She had a few romantic relationships, but they never lasted long. She wrote that music was her true love, and there was no room for anything else. As Maya read about Helena's life, she felt a deep sadness. Helena had been so talented, so dedicated, so successful. But she had also been alone. She had money and fame, but no family. She had audiences who applauded, but no one to go home to. Maya read until late at night. When she finally closed the journal, her eyes were tired. She looked around the music room. This had been Helena's sanctuary. This piano had been her closest companion. Maya walked over to the piano and sat down. She played softly, thinking about everything she had read. She understood now why Helena had been so moved by her street corner playing. Helena had heard something in Maya's music that she had lost in her own. Pure emotion, unfiltered by perfectionism or pressure. The next morning, Maya woke up in her new bedroom. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. She was in Helena's house. Her house now. She made coffee in the beautiful kitchen and took it to the music room. She continued reading the journals. She read through Helena's 30s and 40s. She read about concert tours and recordings. She read about awards and critical acclaim, but the theme of loneliness continued. Helena wrote less and less about music and more about feeling disconnected from the world. She wrote about watching other people's lives, people with families and children, and wondering if she had made the right choices. Then Maya found a journal from Helena's 50s, and the tone changed. Helena had started teaching a few students. She wrote about how much joy it gave her to share music with young people. She wrote that watching them learn and grow gave her more satisfaction than any concert had in years. But then, a few years later, Helena stopped teaching. She wrote that she could not handle the pain of caring about her students and then losing touch with them. She said it hurt too much to let people into her life only to have them leave. Maya felt tears in her eyes as she read this. Helena had built walls around herself. She had protected herself from pain, but she had also locked herself away from love. Maya continued reading through the afternoon. She reached the journals from Helena's retirement. Helena wrote that she was done with public performances. She said she was tired of playing for audiences who did not really listen. She was tired of critics and competitions. She wanted to play only for herself now. For several years, Helena's journal entries were sparse. Just a few lines here and there about her daily life. She read books. She took walks. She played her piano alone in her house. That was all. Then Maya reached a journal from 6 months ago and her heart started beating faster. This was when Helena had started listening to Maya play on the street corner. The first entry about Maya said, "Today I took a different route on my walk. I heard piano music coming from a street corner. I stopped to listen. A young woman was playing on a portable keyboard. She was playing Mozart. Not perfectly, there were a few mistakes. But she played with such joy. People were walking past her, ignoring her, but she did not seem to care. She just kept playing, smiling to herself. I watched her for 3 songs. I have not felt that moved by music in years." Maya wiped her eyes. She remembered that day. It had been a good day. The sun had been shining and she had felt happy. She had not known that anyone was really listening. She read the next entries. Helena had gone back to that corner every week, sometimes twice a week. She wrote about each piece Maya played. She wrote about Maya's technique, which she said was good but not professional. But more than that, she wrote about the emotion in Maya's playing. "This young woman plays like I used to play as a child, before I knew that music could be a career. She plays like it is a conversation with someone she loves. She plays like the music matters more than anything else in the world. I envy her. I wish I had never lost that. Maya read entry after entry about herself. It felt strange to read someone else's observations about her. Helena had noticed details Maya never would have imagined. She noticed when Maya seemed tired or sad. She noticed when Maya played with extra joy. She noticed which pieces Maya played most often. Then Maya reached the entry from the day she had played Chopin's Nocturne. The day Theodore Blackwood had stood and cried. Helena had written, "Today she played my mother's favorite piece, the Chopin Nocturne in E-flat major. My mother used to play this for me when I was very small. It was the first piece I ever learned on piano. My mother taught it to me before she died. Today, hearing this young woman play it on that street corner, I felt like my mother was with me again. I wept like a child. I realized that this young woman understands something I have spent my whole life trying to find. She has not lost her soul to the pursuit of perfection. She plays with the heart I lost decades ago. She deserves everything I have. She will use it better than I did. I have made my decision. I will change my will. I will leave her everything. Let her have a chance that I wasted. Let her have the resources to pursue music without the desperation I see in her eyes. Let her play on that beautiful piano in my house and let the music fill those empty rooms with life again." Maya sat very still, holding the journal. Tears were flowing down her face now. Helena had seen her desperation. Helena had understood her struggle. And Helena had decided to change her entire life. The journal entries after that were about Helena's plans. She contacted Theodore Blackwood. She made arrangements. She wrote the letter explaining her decision. She spent her final weeks making sure everything was in order, so Maya would inherit without complications. The last entry was dated just 2 days before Helena died. It was short. "I am very tired now. My body is failing, but I am at peace with my decision. I have lived a long life. I achieved many things. But I think this final act, giving my home and my piano to that young woman, will be my most important legacy. She will do what I could not. She will make beautiful music and live a full life. She will not lock herself away as I did. I can hear her playing even now in my memory. It brings me comfort. Music was my life. Let it be her life too, but in a better way." That was the last entry. Helena had died 2 days later. Maya closed the journal and held it against her chest. She was crying openly now. She felt like she had gotten to know Helena through these pages. She understood now why Helena had chosen her. It was not random or crazy. Helena had seen herself in Maya, or rather she had seen what she had once been and what Maya could still become. Maya sat in the music room for a long time, thinking about everything she had read. She thought about Helena's long, lonely life. She thought about all the warnings in those journals, the dangers of perfectionism, of isolation, of caring too much about success and not enough about connection. Helena had given Maya more than a house and money. She had given her a roadmap of mistakes to avoid. She had given her a second chance, not just for Maya, but for Helena herself. Through Maya, Helena could try again. Through Maya, the music could be what it should have been all along, a source of joy, not just achievement. Maya stood up and walked to the piano bench. She noticed something she had missed before. Tucked into the very bottom of the bench, underneath all the journals, was a folder. She pulled it out carefully. Inside the folder were loose sheets of music paper covered in handwritten notes. Musical notation filled the pages. At the top of the first page, in Helena's elegant handwriting, was a title, Inheritance. Maya's breath caught. This was an original composition. Helena's own music. She looked through the pages. The piece was complex and beautiful. The notation showed a skilled composer's hand. But something was wrong. The piece stopped abruptly in the middle. The last page had notes on only the first few lines. Then nothing. Maya turned to the last page. There was a note written at the bottom in Helena's handwriting. "For the one who will understand how to finish what I could not. This piece tells my story, but I cannot write the ending. The ending is not mine to write. It belongs to whoever comes after me, to whoever will live the life I should have lived. Please finish this piece. Make it whole. Give it the happy ending I never found. Then share it with the world. Let this be my final gift, not just to you, but to everyone who needs to hear that it is never too late to change, never too late to choose feeling over perfection, never too late to let others in. Finish my music and in doing so complete my life. With love and hope, Helena. Maya read the note 3 times. Then she looked at the unfinished composition. Helena wanted her to complete it. Helena wanted her to add her own voice to Helena's music. To blend their stories together. It was a beautiful idea, but it was also terrifying. How could Maya finish a piece by such a skilled composer? What if she ruined it? What if her edition was not good enough? But then Maya remembered what Helena had written in her journals. Helena had not cared about perfection in the end. She had cared about emotion and truth. She had heard those things in Maya's playing even when it was not technically perfect. Maya took the folder to the music stand on the piano. She placed the first page of the composition on the stand and began to play. The music was beautiful and complex, just as she had expected. It had sadness in it, but also strength. It told a story of dedication and loss. It felt like Helena's whole life condensed into music. Maya played through all the completed pages. When she reached the point where the music stopped, she kept her hands on the keys. She closed her eyes and thought about everything she had learned about Helena. She thought about her own life and her own mother. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, and slowly she began to play what came next. Maya spent the next 3 months trying to complete Helena's composition. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. Every day she sat at the beautiful Steinway piano and played through Helena's written notes. Then she tried to add her own music to continue the story, but nothing felt right. Every melody she tried seemed wrong. Too simple, too complicated, too cheerful, too sad. Nothing captured what she wanted to express. Nothing felt worthy of Helena's beginning. Some days Maya felt frustrated and wanted to give up. She would walk away from the piano and wander through the house. She would read more of Helena's journals or look at the photographs. She was trying to understand something deeper. What had Helena really wanted? What was the ending she could not write herself? Maya also started exploring the neighborhood. She walked the same streets Helena had walked. She found the route Helena must have taken to reach Maya's street corner. She imagined the old woman making this walk every week, coming to listen to a stranger play music. One day, Maya walked into a small cafe near the house. The owner, a woman named Rosa, recognized the house when Maya mentioned the address. "Oh, you bought Mrs. Volkov's place?" Rosa asked. She was such a sweet lady. Very quiet. She came in here for tea sometimes. "You knew her?" Maya asked, excited to meet someone who had actually spoken with Helena. "Not well," Rosa admitted. She kept to herself mostly. But she was always kind. She left good tips. And she loved to listen when we played music in here. Rosa gestured to a small corner where there was a piano. "My daughter takes lessons. She practices here sometimes." Mrs. Volkov would sit and listen with tears in her eyes. "Did she ever play the piano herself?" Maya asked. Rosa shook her head. "No, never. My daughter asked her once if she played. Mrs. Volkov just smiled and said she used to a long time ago. She said now she preferred to listen." Maya thought about this conversation for days afterward. Helena had stopped playing for others. She had stopped sharing her gift. At the end of her life, she only listened. She had closed herself off so completely that even the cafe owner did not know she was a famous pianist. This made Maya sad but also helped her understand. Helena's unfinished composition was not just about her own life. It was about the choice between sharing yourself with the world or hiding away. It was about the cost of perfectionism and fear. Maya realized that the ending Helena could not write was about opening up. About choosing connection over isolation. That was what Maya needed to express in the music. She went back to the piano with new determination. Instead of trying to match Helena's complex classical style perfectly, Maya decided to bring her own voice into the piece. She would blend their styles together. Helena's sophisticated classical training with Maya's more emotional, instinctive approach. She started working on a bridge section that would transition from Helena's music to her own. The bridge was like a conversation between two pianists, two women, two generations. Helena's formal phrases would be answered by Maya's simpler but more emotional responses. It started to work. Maya could feel it. The music was becoming something new. Not just Helena's piece and not just Maya's piece, but something they had created together across time and death. But there was still something missing. Maya could not figure out what. Then, one evening, Maya was reading through the last of Helena's journals again. She came across an entry she had missed before. It was tucked between 2 pages that had stuck together. Helena had written, "I have one regret that weighs on me more than all others. I never shared my music with children. I taught briefly, but I kept my students at a distance. I never let them truly know me. I never opened my heart to them. I see now that music should be passed down with love, not just with technique. If I could do it over, I would spend my life teaching children who have no money for lessons. I would share music with those who need it most. But it is too late for me now. I hope whoever receives my legacy will understand this. I hope they will share the gift, not hoard it." Maya read this entry 3 times. Then she knew. She finally understood what the ending needed to be. The composition needed to represent not just opening up to the world, but giving back, sharing, teaching, breaking the cycle of isolation. The next morning, Maya called Theodore Blackwood. "Mr. Blackwood, I need your help with something," she said. "Of course, Miss Chen, what do you need?" "I want to start a foundation. A music foundation that gives free lessons to children who cannot afford them. I want to use Helena's name. The Helena Volkov Foundation." There was a pause. Then Theodore said, "I think Helena would have loved that. She left you the money to do whatever you wanted with it. If you want to use some of it for a foundation, I can help you set that up." "Thank you," Maya said. "And there's something else." Helena left an unfinished musical composition. She asked me to complete it. I'm almost done, but I think it needs to be performed. Not just recorded, but performed live for people to hear. Could you help me arrange that? "What kind of performance are you thinking about?" Theodore asked. "A charity concert," Maya said, "to raise money for the foundation, to benefit children who want to learn music but cannot afford lessons." "That feels right. That feels like what Helena wanted." "I think that's a wonderful idea," Theodore said warmly. "When would you want to do this?" Maya thought about it. "Helena died almost 4 months ago. Could we do it on the 1-year anniversary of her death? That gives me about 8 months to finish the composition and practice it, and to set up the foundation properly." "That's very appropriate timing," Theodore agreed. "I'll start making arrangements. I know some people in the arts community who would be interested in supporting this. A concert featuring the final composition of Helena Volkov, completed by her chosen heir. It will attract attention." After the call, Maya felt energized. She finally knew what she was working toward. The composition was not just about the past. It was about the future. It was about taking everything Helena had given her and using it to help others. Over the next several months, Maya worked harder than she ever had in her life. She finished the composition, writing and rewriting until it felt perfect. Not technically perfect. She knew she would never match Helena's skill level, but emotionally perfect, true to both their voices. The final section of the piece brought in elements from the Chopin nocturne that Maya had played on the street corner. The piece that had moved both Helena and Theodore Blackwood to tears. This felt right. It connected everything: Maya's mother, Helena's mother, the street corner where Helena found Maya, and the hope for future generations of young musicians. Maya titled her section of the composition, "The Legacy Continues." Together, Helena's Inheritance and Maya's The Legacy Continues made one complete piece that told a story of loneliness transforming into connection, isolation transforming into community. While Maya worked on the music, Theodore helped her set up the foundation. They rented a small studio space in a neighborhood where many low-income families lived. Maya interviewed music teachers who wanted to help. She found 3 wonderful teachers who were excited about giving back to their community. Maya decided to keep some of Helena's money for herself, enough to live comfortably and focus on music without financial stress. But the majority of the money would go to the foundation. She would also donate Helena's brownstone house to the foundation after the concert. The house would become a music school where children could come for free lessons. This decision felt right to Maya. She did not need such a large house just for herself. That would be repeating Helena's mistake, living alone in a beautiful space. Instead, the house should be filled with children and music and life. That was what Helena would have wanted, even if she had not known how to do it herself. As the concert date approached, Maya started practicing the complete composition every day. She played it over and over, getting comfortable with every note. The piece was about 12 minutes long when performed completely. It had slow sections and fast sections, simple melodies and complex harmonies, Helena's classical training and Maya's emotional expression. Theodore arranged for the concert to be held at the city concert hall, a beautiful venue where Helena herself had performed decades ago. He invited music critics, donors who might support the foundation, and members of the community. Tickets were free, but people could donate if they wanted to support the foundation. Maya was terrified. She had never performed for a real audience before, except for people walking past her on the street.
Now she would play in a concert hall in front of hundreds of people.
What if she made mistakes? What if people thought her addition to Helena's composition was not good enough? The night before the concert, Maya could not sleep. She walked through Helena's house, soon to be the foundation's house, thinking about everything that had happened. 1 year ago, she had been a struggling street musician living in a terrible apartment. Now she was about to perform an original composition in a major concert hall. It felt impossible. She went to the music room and sat at the Steinway piano. This piano would also be donated to the foundation. It would be the main piano in the school, where the most advanced students would have the privilege of playing. Maya placed her hands on the keys. She played the complete composition one more time, alone in the dark house. When she finished, she felt calm. She had done her best. She had honored Helena's gift. Whatever happened tomorrow, she had completed what Helena asked her to do. The next evening, Maya arrived at the concert hall early. She wore a simple black dress, the same dress she had worn to Theodore's office on that first day. It seemed fitting somehow. She was still the same person even though her life had changed so completely. Theodore met her backstage. "How are you feeling?" he asked kindly. "Nervous," Maya admitted. "Very nervous." "Helena was nervous before every performance," Theodore said. "She told me once that the nervousness meant you cared. It meant the music mattered. If you were not nervous, that would be worse," Maya smiled. "That helps." "Thank you." "There's a full house out there," Theodore said. The music critics from all the major newspapers came. Some of Helena's old colleagues from her performing days, community leaders, parents with their children. Everyone wants to hear Helena's final composition. Maya felt her stomach flip. "That makes me more nervous." Theodore put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You have already succeeded, Maya. You completed Helena's composition with love and respect. You created a foundation to help children learn music. You are sharing Helena's home and piano instead of keeping them for yourself. Helena would be so proud. Whether your performance tonight is technically perfect does not matter. What matters is that you understood what she was trying to tell you. You understood that music is about connection, not isolation. You learned from her mistakes. That was the whole point." Maya felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you. That means a lot." A stage manager came to tell Maya it was almost time. Maya walked to the side of the stage and looked out at the audience. The seats were full. People were talking quietly, reading their programs, waiting. She saw Theodore take his seat in the front row. She saw the music teachers she had hired for the foundation. She saw Rosa from the cafe. She saw Mr. Ramirez from the coffee shop where she used to work. She saw Mrs. Martinez, her old neighbor from the bad apartment building. They had all come to support her, and she imagined Helena there too, sitting in the audience, smiling. The stage manager gave her a signal. It was time. Maya walked out onto the stage. The talking stopped. Everyone looked at her. The stage lights were bright and warm. There was a beautiful grand piano in the center of the stage. Maya walked to the piano and sat down. She looked out at the audience one more time. Then she placed her hands on the keys. She began to play Helena's composition, Inheritance. The opening notes were soft and sad, telling the story of a young girl who lost her mother and poured all her grief into music. The music grew more complex as it described a life dedicated to perfection, to achievement, to success. Then the music changed as it reached the section where Helena had stopped writing. There was a moment of silence, a pause between the old life and the new. And then Maya began playing her section, The Legacy Continues. Her music was different from Helena's, but it fit together perfectly. It took Helena's sad story and transformed it. The melody opened up, became more accessible, more hopeful. It brought in themes from the Chopin Nocturne. It suggested connection and community. It suggested that loneliness could end, that isolation was a choice, that it was never too late to change. The piece built to a powerful crescendo, both women's voices together, classical and contemporary, technique and emotion, past and future. And then it resolved into a gentle, peaceful ending. A lullaby. A promise. A hope for all the children who would learn music in Helena's house, who would play Helena's piano, who would receive the gift that both Helena and Maya wanted to share. Maya played the final note and lifted her hands from the keys. There was silence in the concert hall. Complete silence. Maya's heart pounded. Had she failed? Had people hated it? Then the audience began to applaud. It started slow but grew louder and louder. People stood up. Everyone was standing. They were clapping and some were crying. The applause went on and on. Maya stood and took a bow. Tears were streaming down her face. She had done it. She had completed Helena's final wish. She had finished the composition and shared it with the world. As she looked out at the standing ovation, Maya felt Helena's presence. Not as a ghost or anything supernatural, but as a feeling, a sense of completion, a sense of peace. Helena's story had ended the way it was meant to end, not in loneliness, but in sharing and giving and hope. The applause continued. Maya bowed again, smiling through her tears. This was not the end of the story. It was the beginning. The morning after the concert, Maya woke up in Helena's bedroom. She had decided to sleep there one last time before the house was officially transferred to the foundation. She lay in bed for a few moments thinking about the previous night. The concert had been more successful than she could have imagined. After her performance, several music critics had approached her. They wanted to write about Helena's final composition and the story behind it. They wanted to interview Maya about completing the piece and starting the foundation. Maya had also met some of Helena's old colleagues, musicians who had performed with her decades ago. They shared stories about Helena. They talked about how talented she was, but also how distant. They said they had tried to be her friend, but she always kept them at arm's length. Hearing this made Maya sad, but also grateful. Grateful that Helena had finally reached out to someone, even if it was a stranger. Even if it was too late for Helena to benefit from the connection herself. The concert had raised over $50,000 in donations for the foundation. People had been generous. They understood what Maya was trying to do. They wanted to help children learn music the way Maya and Helena had learned. With love and dedication, not just with money. Maya got out of bed and walked through the house one more time. In 2 days, the official transfer would happen. The house would become the Helena Volkov Music School. The construction workers were already scheduled to come and convert some rooms into proper teaching studios. They would add soundproofing and music stands and storage for instruments, but they would keep the beautiful character of the house. They would preserve Helena's music room exactly as it was. Maya had already found a small apartment for herself. It was nothing fancy, but it was clean and safe and affordable. She did not need luxury. She just needed a quiet place to compose and practice. Theodore had helped her set up a monthly income from the foundation's management fees, enough for Maya to focus on music without financial stress. It was not wealth, but it was security. That was all she needed. The doorbell rang. Maya went downstairs and opened the door. It was Theodore with a newspaper in his hand. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "I thought you might want to see this." He handed her the newspaper. On the arts page was a large article with a photograph of Maya at the piano. The headline read, "Street musician completes famous pianist's final work, a story of legacy and second chances." Maya read the article quickly. The critic praised the composition highly. She wrote about Helena's technical brilliance combined with Maya's emotional depth. She called it a masterpiece of collaborative composition across time and death. She wrote about the foundation and urged readers to support it. "This is wonderful," Maya said. "This will help the foundation so much." "There's more," Theodore said. "I've had 5 phone calls this morning already. Other newspapers want to interview you. A classical music magazine wants to do a feature story, and a recording company wants to record the composition for an album. The profits would go to the foundation." Maya felt overwhelmed. "I never expected this much attention." "You've created something special," Theodore said. "Not just the music, but the whole story. It touches people. Everyone understands loneliness. Everyone understands the desire to connect. Helena's story is sad, but your ending gives it hope. People need hope." Over the next few weeks, Maya gave several interviews. She talked about Helena and the composition and the foundation. She talked about her own journey from street musician to concert performer. She talked about her mother and about the power of music to change lives. The story spread beyond just the local newspapers. National media picked it up. A television news program did a segment about Maya and the foundation. The recording of the composition was released and became surprisingly popular. Not a huge hit, but it sold well enough to bring significant money into the foundation. The Helena Volkov Music School opened 3 months after the concert. Maya was there on opening day to meet the first students. 20 children had been selected for the first session. They ranged in age from 6 to 14. They came from neighborhoods where music lessons were an impossible luxury. Maya watched as the children walked into the beautiful brownstone house. Their eyes grew wide as they saw the elegant rooms and the instruments. Many of them had never been in such a nice house before. They certainly had never had access to such beautiful instruments. The teachers Maya had hired were patient and kind. They understood these children's backgrounds. They knew how to encourage without demanding perfection. They knew how to make music fun while also teaching proper technique. Maya stayed for the first day of classes. She watched a 6-year-old girl named Jasmine touch a piano for the first time. Jasmine's fingers were small and uncertain on the keys. But when she pressed down and heard the sound, her face lit up with joy. "It's so pretty," Jasmine whispered. Her teacher, Mrs. Wong, smiled. "Would you like to learn how to play it?" Jasmine nodded enthusiastically. Maya felt tears in her eyes. This was what Helena had wanted. This joy, this discovery, this gift being passed on to a new generation. In another room, a 13-year-old boy named Marcus was trying the violin. He was awkward at first, but his teacher was patient. By the end of the lesson, Marcus could play a simple scale. He looked proud of himself. "Can I practice at home?" Marcus asked. His teacher shook her head sadly. "The school doesn't have enough violins to loan out yet. You'll have to practice here." Maya made a mental note. The foundation needed to buy more instruments. Children should be able to practice at home. She would make sure that happened. After the first day of classes ended and the children had left, Maya walked through the house with the teachers. They talked about what went well and what could be improved. They talked about the children's different personalities and learning styles. They made plans for future lessons. Finally, Maya went to the music room. The Steinway piano sat in its place, gleaming in the afternoon light. Maya had insisted that every student would get at least a few lessons on this piano. It would be their reward for practice and dedication. They would understand they were playing an instrument that had once belonged to a famous musician. They would understand they were part of a legacy. Maya sat at the piano and played softly. She played a simple melody, one of the first pieces her mother had taught her. As she played, she thought about everything that had happened in the past year. A year ago, she had been lonely and struggling. She had been playing on street corners for spare change, wondering if she would ever achieve her dreams. She had felt invisible. She had felt like her music did not matter to anyone except herself. Then Helena had heard her. Helena had seen something in her music that changed everything. Not just for Maya, but hopefully for all the children who would learn music in this house. Maya understood now that Helena's gift was not really about the money or the house or even the piano. It was about purpose. It was about understanding that music should not be hoarded or isolated. It should be shared. It should connect people. It should pass from generation to generation like a precious inheritance. Maya finished playing and sat quietly. She felt Helena's presence again. That sense of peace and completion. She imagined Helena watching the children learn today. She imagined Helena smiling. "Thank you," Maya whispered to the empty room. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for trusting me. I promise I'll take care of this. I promise I'll share the gift." Over the following months, the music school grew. More children enrolled. More instruments were purchased. The foundation received enough donations to hire 2 more teachers. They started offering classes not just in piano and violin, but in guitar, flute, and drums. Maya continued to be involved, but she also returned to her own music. She started composing original pieces. She performed occasionally at benefit concerts for various causes. She taught a few advanced students who were ready for one-on-one instruction. But most importantly, she lived a balanced life. She made friends. She joined a community orchestra. She went to cafes and parks. She did not lock herself away as Helena had done. She remembered the warning in Helena's journals. She remembered that perfectionism and isolation had cost Helena decades of happiness. One day, about a year after the school opened, Maya was working in her small apartment when her phone rang. It was Mrs. Wong from the music school. "Maya, you need to come see this," Mrs. Wong said excitedly. "Jasmine has been practicing so hard. She wants to play something for you." Maya went to the school immediately. Jasmine was now 7 years old and had been studying piano for over a year. She was still small, but she sat at the Steinway piano with confidence. "Hi, Miss Maya," Jasmine said shyly. "Hi, Jasmine. Mrs. Wong says you want to play something for me." Jasmine nodded. "I've been practicing really hard. I wanted to play this for you because Mrs. Wong said it was special." Jasmine began to play. Maya recognized the melody immediately. It was the Chopin Nocturne, the same piece Maya had been playing on the street corner when Helena first heard her. The same piece that had started this entire journey. Jasmine's playing was simple and not perfect. Her small fingers stumbled over some of the more complicated passages, but she played with feeling. She played with joy. She played because she loved the music, not because she was trying to impress anyone. When Jasmine finished, she looked up at Maya with bright eyes. "Did you like it?" Maya was crying. She knelt down next to the piano bench and hugged Jasmine. "I loved it. You played beautifully, with so much heart." "Mrs. Wong said this was your mother's favorite piece," Jasmine said. "And it was also Miss Helena's mother's favorite piece. So it's like we're all connected by the music." Maya nodded, unable to speak for a moment. This child understood. This 7-year-old girl understood what had taken Helena and Maya decades to learn. Music was not about individual achievement. It was about connection across time and generations. It was about mothers and daughters and teachers and students. It was about passing on beauty and joy. "That's exactly right," Maya said finally. "We are all connected by the music." Over the next several years, the Helena Volkov Music School became well known in the city. It was featured in magazines and on news programs. Other cities started similar programs inspired by Maya's story. The foundation expanded to offer summer music camps and weekend workshops. Some of the students who started at the school went on to study music professionally. Others simply enjoyed music as a hobby. But all of them carried forward the lessons they learned. They learned that music was a gift to be shared. They learned that dedication and practice mattered, but so did joy and emotional truth. They learned that everyone deserved access to beauty, regardless of money or background. Maya kept all of Helena's journals. Sometimes she would read through them, reminding herself of Helena's lessons. She noticed things she had missed the first time. Small details that took on new meaning as Maya gained more life experience. In one journal entry, Helena had written something that Maya returned to often. "True legacy is not about fame or achievement. True legacy is about what you give to the world that continues after you are gone. I spent most of my life building the wrong kind of legacy. I collected awards and money and critical praise. But none of that matters now. The only thing that matters is whether I have passed on something of value to the next generation. I hope I am not too late. I hope there is still time to leave something real behind." Helena had not been too late. Through Maya, through the school, through the children learning music in her house, Helena's legacy was alive and growing. It was not the legacy of a famous but lonely pianist. It was the legacy of someone who had learned from her mistakes and found a way to give back. 5 years after that first concert, Maya organized an anniversary celebration. She invited everyone connected to the foundation: students, teachers, donors, and supporters. They gathered at the music school, filling every room with laughter and conversation. Maya stood in the music room watching the celebration. Children were taking turns playing the Steinway piano. Parents were talking with teachers. Theodore Blackwood stood in the corner, smiling as he watched everything. He looked older now, but still sharp and kind. A teenage girl approached Maya. Her name was Carmen, and she had been one of the first students at the school. She was 15 now and quite talented on the violin. "Miss Maya," Carmen said, "I wanted to tell you something. I got accepted to the conservatory. They offered me a full scholarship." Maya hugged her. "Carmen, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." "I wouldn't be here without this school," Carmen said. "Without you and Miss Helena, my family could never have afforded music lessons. But now I'm going to study music in college. I'm going to be a music teacher someday. I want to start a school like this one in my neighborhood." Maya felt overwhelmed with emotion. "That's the best thing I could possibly hear. Helena would be so happy." "I never met Miss Helena," Carmen said, "but I feel like I know her. From playing her piano, From learning in her house, from hearing all the stories. She's like a musical ancestor, like she's part of my family. That's exactly what she is, Maya agreed. That's exactly what she wanted to be. As the celebration continued, Maya slipped away to the music room when it was empty for a moment. She sat at the Steinway piano and played softly. She played part of Inheritance and The Legacy Continues. She played the Chopin Nocturne. She played a simple melody her mother had taught her long ago. As she played, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a street corner to a concert hall to this school full of laughing children. From loneliness to community. From struggle to purpose. She thought about her mother, who had worked 2 jobs to pay for piano lessons. She thought about Helena, who had heard something special in a stranger's music. She thought about all the children who had passed through this school, and all the children who would come in the future. Maya understood now that she had received more than an inheritance. She had received a calling. She had been chosen not just to receive Helena's gift, but to multiply it, to share it, to pass it on to countless others. The music flowed from her fingers naturally without conscious thought. This was what music was meant to be. Not a performance, not an achievement, but a conversation, a connection, a gift passed from heart to heart, generation to generation, forever. When Maya finished playing, she sat quietly for a moment with her hands resting on the keys. Then she smiled. She stood up and returned to the celebration, to the children and teachers and friends who had become her family. The Steinway piano sat silent in the music room, waiting for the next student who would sit down and discover its magic, waiting for the next person who would become part of this legacy of love and music and hope. And somewhere, Maya felt certain, Helena was at peace. Her story had ended the way every story should end, not in loneliness but in love, not in isolation but in community, not in silence but in music that would echo through time long after everyone who played it was gone. The simple tune Maya had played on that street corner had led to all of this. It had led to an inheritance, yes, but more importantly, it had led to understanding. It had led to purpose. It had led to a grand piano masterpiece that was not just notes on paper, but lives transformed and futures changed. That was the real legacy. That was the real inheritance. And it would continue forever, passed from hand to hand, heart to heart, one beautiful note at a time.